Hello, it is Sharon from Accidental ArtMaker. Today we're going to be upcycling 2 side tables and we're going to be talking about creativity. If you are new to Accidental ArtMaker, or me, Sharon, one thing you should know is that I love getting furniture off of Buy Nothing. It's the best place to get crazy pieces that you can experiment with. I used to spend a lot of time thinking about what colors I wanted to use, but these days I will just grab the can that's closest to me or whatever color just catches my eye in the moment. I used to watch a lot of tutorials with step-by-step instructions on how to create something, but there's kind of something flawed with that approach. Do you know what it is? I was learning how to make something, but not to create something. There's a difference. In the dictionary, creativity is defined as the use of the imagination or original ideas, especially in the production of an artistic work. I know I'm in a state of flow of creativity when I'm in wonder. And by that I mean, I wonder what happens when I do this. I wonder what happens when I do that. What, I wonder, will happen when I move this over here, and so on. I love being creative. Sometimes it's a real struggle to get into that place where I feel like being creative, and often creativity for me, it changes on my mood, what I'm working on. What am I trying to do here? What am I trying to learn here? What's the process? Am I making stuff up as I go along, or is this a tried and true thing that I'm doing along the way? I also think that creativity can be focus. It can be a combination of ingenuity and being vulnerable to experiment at the same time. All behind this creativity is a desire to make something, a desire to learn something. And perhaps most of all, it's trusting yourself and your ideas that are coming to you and getting them out and getting them down on that thing that you're painting, coloring, changing, creating. On this piece you're watching me make here, I really had no idea what I wanted to do, except I knew I wanted to use the Vida Flora Inlay, and I thought one of the stamps, and I wanted to have some fun with color. I really had no other expectations except to go in with these things and see what happens. I did some experimenting along the way too. I think as an artist, you need to find the thing that triggers your creativity. For me, it's color. I love all the color everywhere. You should see the walls of my house. I love painting furniture with lots of color. When I'm just doing 1 or 2 colors, I find it so dull and boring, and I feel like my creativity is suffocating. I want to talk a little bit more about tutorials. Now, don't get me wrong. Tutorials have helped give me a foundation of skills and techniques that I carry with me every day. But I get tired of being walked through and talked through how to do things. These days, I'll probably get back to a point where I'm going to need tutorials to learn new skills and techniques. Now, techniques are like the secret ingredient with your creativity. It can take what you're working on from something that's good to something that makes people catch their breath. And techniques are things that you can learn along the way on your own through tutorials, by looking at an art piece that you love and figuring out, asking the artist, hey, how did you do this? There's so many different ways that you can build your toolbox of techniques. There are many things that you can do to ensure that your creative techniques keep evolving and stretching who you are as an artist. One is to embrace curiosity. This is probably my number one tip for myself is I'm a curious person. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to experiment. What happens when I do this? What happens when I do that? That's like my number one way of making sure my techniques keep evolving because I learn by doing. Now, that's not for everybody. Here's another thing that's not for everybody, but I highly encourage you to give it a try, and that is pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. Just do it. Break free from routine, from the art you're used to making. If you do watercolors all the time, try acrylic. If you paint furniture all the time, try making a mural. If, like there's all these different ways that you can get outside your comfort zone and be creative. That will also stretch you too. Making mistakes. Oh my gosh. Making mistakes has made me such a better artist, and it's really poked fun at my creativity, and having a sense of humor also helps. Let's talk about inspiration. Now, if you've made it this far through the video and you're still listening to me, I'm thinking I may be inspiring you a little bit. And I love that. I think that's great. I love inspiring people. I want you to know that I get inspired by so many different things around me. And sometimes I forget that. I forget that I can go onto Pinterest and type in boho maximalism on furniture, and I'm going to see a ton of examples. It's easy to forget to walk out through my front door, step in the grass, and take in a deep breath while looking at flowers and getting some inspiration from the colors, or even looking down the street at what my crazy neighbor is doing in his driveway this week. That's actually quite inspiring. That guy never stops making things in his driveway. Every week it's a new project. So find that source of inspiration. It's super important, and make that perhaps part of your daily routine is I'm going to go be inspired by something. Hey, let's look at the 2 side tables that I've been working on while I've been chatting away here. When I was at this stage that you're seeing me here, where I'm removing the inlays from the front of these side tables, I was actually kind of disappointed at first because it didn't turn out the way that I expected. I expected more of the inlay to transfer across to the side tables. And at first in my head, this came at me as a mistake. I had made a mistake in what I was doing. You probably know where I'm going with this. It wasn't a mistake. It was a learning experience. Now that might sound kind of cheesy. It probably is cheesy, but I did learn a lot along the way. Everything you've seen up to this point, I'm learning as I'm doing this. And I learned that I couldn't pull off much of an image from a paint inlay with the medium that I was using. And truly, IOD paint inlays work best when you're applying them on wet paint. And that's okay. I learned that along the way. But what I also kind of did here was I created a new technique. I could look at it as a mistake, right? But I could also look at it as a new technique I just invented. And I'm calling it ghosting. Doesn't that sound cool? Ghosting. But not the ghosting that you hear about these modern days, online being ghosted. No, what I did here was I was like, that looks like a bird ghost. And as soon as I started looking at things like as ghostly, something happened and I thought it was so cool. And I just went for it after that. I put inlays over the entire side tables using this technique. So remember earlier when I was talking about pushing yourself out of your comfort zone? Well, you're watching me do that here in this video where I'm stamping. I like to stamp. I usually kind of do the one and done stamp. I'll stamp something and then maybe color it in, or it's a little accent here. But for this piece, I used stamping as like a major component of the art. And I use techniques that I have been gathering from watching lots of different artists, like Lael from Made by Marley and Lexi from Miss Lexi Grenzer, fabulous artists, right? They're so brave. I watch them and I think, gosh, they're so brave. And when I was looking at this piece, I was like, it needs more. I've got these ghosts here. What am I going to do next? What other thing can I do to add dimension and, of course, color to this piece? And I was looking at my stamps and I heard the voice in my head. It said, Sharon, it's time to go for it with stamps. And so I did. Watch me stamp here. It's so much fun with paint, with ink. I'm using the same palette of colors here that I mixed together. Now I'm just using them separately on their own, and I'm stamping with that paint, and this really ties it all together. All right, well, we are reaching the end of this video. It is not a tutorial. It is not a tutorial. It's a video. Here I am waxing the final side tables in all their glory with the ghost birds from Vida, Flora, and stamps from Pennsylvania Folk, and all the colors from DIY Paint. I hope you've enjoyed watching me and hanging out.